Well, it could be that we are heading towards World War III before Donald J. Trump can take office. At least that's what some people believe based on Joe Biden's behavior. To help me go through some of the biggest news stories out there today, I have Ray Ross from Black Logic. Ray, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. I appreciate it.
So I think this is like our fourth or fifth show over the last 4 years. So I appreciate you coming on. A little bit of background on Ray. He is the host of a YouTube show like mine called Black Logic. He's also a military veteran with over 20 years of service to our country. Earlier this week, President Biden authorized Zelensky of Ukraine to fire U.S. supplied weapons into Russia. They fired 6. They're sitting on thousands of them. Then the United Kingdom said, well, we're going to send Storm Shadow missiles, and you also have our permission to attack Moscow or wherever you feel is best. Now Putin is threatening to attack U.S. military bases in Poland, and last night hit Ukraine with heavy missiles. How stupid is this for President Biden to approve attacking Russia? And why might he do this 65 days before handing off the presidency?
Very easy said. He's doing this because he understands when Donald Trump's getting into office that he may either limit or stop the funding for the Ukraine/Russia war. Trump really wants to handle this in a very peaceful manner. So I think there's already been reports, if I'm not mistaken, of him speaking with Vladimir Putin about this very same issue. And so he's trying to handle it very peacefully. But what Biden has done throughout his whole presidency has funded the Ukrainians with billions of dollars. I think we're almost close to $250 billion, $250 billion in funding this war with military grade weapons. That's really cutting the foreign budget. Majority of the money of the foreign budget is going to Ukraine to fund this war that majority of Americans don't agree with. So he's trying to do all of these things prior to Trump getting into office. And I don't know what legacy that leaves for Biden other than despicable, because again, we have over 1 million Americans that are homeless, another million with mental issues, that a lot of that money could have went to programs and sheltering of these, same people. But again, they're not caring anything about the American people, especially when it comes to the tax dollars that we are paying on the federal level.
Yeah. Just in the last 24 hours, the White House approved another $400 million of cash to Ukraine. You brought up the $200 billion plus dollars that have been sent over there. Just think, Ray, how that money might have been used here in the United States, strengthening struggling communities, strengthening families, a border wall, helping senior citizens, veterans, school systems. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is not a small amount of money. Why is the American worker, the American taxpayer, why does this government seem to be America last? Is it just because they need the favors to stay in office from the military-industrial complex?
Now, here's what I know, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this, and they may not even like it. That is because most Americans do not understand that the term democracy is a fallacy. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a republic. And what people need to understand is that when you live in a republic, once you vote, that is your power. Like they tell you that if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. Up until the time you vote, that voice goes along with your vote, meaning that you're voting in representatives who are making decisions for you. Whether you like it or not, they're making decisions to do these very same things that you may not agree with once you voted for them. So when people are running for any particular cabinet or office that you have a say-so in as far as voting is concerned, once you cast your vote, that decision making is now out of your hands, because in a true democracy, and again, this is just my conjecture, in a true democracy, you will have the ability to vote on every single thing. Meaning, though, are we going to fund Ukraine to fight off the Russian imperialists or the Russian dictators? No, Americans do not want to do that because it has killed the economy, has raised inflation. People are struggling with when it comes to their electric bill, their grocery bills, etc. So no, we don't want to fund a war between Ukraine and Russia. So if we can understand that this word democracy has been thrown around like a loose leaf binder, and that we really do not live in a quote unquote democracy, and that we live in a true republic that was based off the Roman 12 disciplines, then I think Americans have a better understanding that when you vote, exactly what that turns out to be, of people either in your corner or outside of your corner and doing whatever the hell they want to do.
Okay. I mean, a good example of that would be my home state of Utah. People overwhelmingly voted in Mitt Romney. Then Mitt Romney went and overwhelmingly voted with Biden and Democrats instead of with conservatives and people that are focused on family, faith, and freedom. And now he's getting booted because people go, wait a minute, we got tricked. We voted you in and you voted against our vote. So yeah, that is a good.
Is Mitt Romney, is he a Democrat or Republican?
Well, he's supposed to be a Republican, but he's a rhino, a true definition of rhino.
Because the only reason why I asked, because I got confused about Tulsi Gabbard. She was a Democrat, now she's a Republican. There are so many people switching. So
yeah,
who knows how much money people? I mean, how their alliances lie. How to say that?
Yeah. So in the news today, you have the state of Colorado, New York, California, Illinois, and then a couple of major cities, Boston, Denver. These are Democrat strongholds saying that they will do everything they can to block Donald Trump and ICE from removing illegal immigrants, even if they have to break the law. How bad has it been for everyday Americans to have 15 million illegals flood the country, get onto these federal assistance programs, and then specifically, how has it affected the Black community of Americans?
Well, I guess first and foremost, you have a lot of illegal individuals, and we can't central locate them from one particular place. A lot of people like to associate the illegal immigrants with Mexico, and now I guess the most infamous country this man named is Venezuela, but they're coming from all over, whether it be Mexico, Central America, Haiti, Africa, India, China. Last year, between November and December, there was over 25 to 35,000 illegal Chinesemen that came through south of the border. And again, we have these so-called catch and release policies that essentially, when they're crossing the border illegally, again, entering and trespassing to another country, which they know they are doing, regardless of the reason, we are just kind of logging them and we're giving them a date. And I know you guys, I'm pretty sure, Stephen, you're familiar with some sort of app they've been using to quote unquote schedule an appointment. But the thing behind the catch and release policies, and of course, this is not on paper, but this is how we know it to be, that they give them a week, 2 weeks to show up and have some sort of court case. And of course, it's backlogged 1, 2, 3 months behind schedule. And a lot of these individuals are never showing up. So first, they enter the country illegally. Then they schedule an appointment anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 or 4 months. These illegal immigrants are going all throughout America. Now they're having help. They're not just going all throughout America on by themselves. And this is where, in my opinion, the waters get a little bit murky. You will have Republicans, and this for your audience, I'll let them know I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not an independent. I'm just telling the truth. You'll have Republicans to ship them to sanctuary cities, which I understand. But in my opinion, isn't that assisting the federal crime of trespassing, being illegal inside the country? That's one. Then two, you have Democratic mayors, governors incentivizing illegal immigration by one, making their city a sanctuary city, and then funding illegal immigration by sheltering, feeding, whether it be by $10,000 on the EBT card, $5,000 in cash, getting work permits, and you're still a non-citizen, you're undocumented, you're illegal alien, you're illegal inside the country. There's so many names we've been using, but nonetheless, it seems like the people who are for America, who wants a more advanced infrastructure, advanced transportation? Would it be high-speed rail connectivity in the suburbs or in rural areas? You still can't get phone signal. There's so much that we can do with the money we spend on illegal immigration, but it seems like the American people are always trapped in the gap. And I think that's why, if you notice, even though Donald Trump is appointing a lot of Republicans to his cabinet, he's picking Republicans who align with his beliefs 85% or more of the time. And I can understand that, because when it comes to illegal immigration, a lot of Republicans was kind of like, I won't say a lot of them, I will say a good portion of them was voting on legislation that the Democrats actually passed, right? I guess they were being sympathetic or empathetic to their situation, which, if you are illegally in the country, should I be empathetic or sympathetic of that? If you are so-called trying to be an asylum seeker, which I call them economic asylum seekers, because a lot of them are not fearing political prosecution. They're not doing that. They're just coming over here for the opportunities that Americans have built for Americans to benefit from. So this is a travesty. And all of this essentially occurred, I believe, back when we've always had, now let me just say this and I'll finish up. We've always had issues with illegal immigration. There's always been loopholes and gaps in illegal immigration, but it really started to expand under Obama, okay? And I'll be truthful here. I voted for Obama twice. I really thought he was going to do some great things. But he created DACA, which incentivized illegal immigrants to come over. Now, to fast forward to answer your second question, majority of the illegal immigrants are either gravitating to or being dropped off into Black cities. Like, take, for instance, Chicago. Chicago started a whole MAGA movement, Blacks for MAGA or MAGA for Black, something like that. I don't recall, but I did a couple of interviews with one of the people you pointed out to me was P. Ray, also known as Chicago Red. I did 2 interviews with her, and she had thousands of Chicagoans to actually vote for Donald Trump so they can eradicate and deport a lot of these illegal immigrants. And not only Chicago, but New York and a lot of cities, even in Aurora, I believe that's Colorado, they had issues. You had a lot of people up there in Springfield, Ohio. I know you heard when Donald Trump was doing the debate between Kamala Harris about a lot of the Haitians eating some of the domestic pets. And again, when you look up a lot of these stories, the news reporting was reporting these stories. So my thing is, a lot of times we can get caught up into conjecture and sensationalization, but we have to understand, if things are being reported, as the American people, that's all we have to go off of if we're not living there ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I appreciated your perspective and P. Ray's perspective, because during the debate, Trump said a lot of these illegals are taking Black jobs. And then people jumped on him saying, oh, there's certain jobs only Black people can do. But you and P. Ray pointed out, well, listen, if they flood a predominantly Black community, and now you have Americans versus illegals trying to rent the same apartments, buy the same groceries, get the same jobs, it is hindering or blocking or disenfranchising someone who's maybe been here for 5, 6, 7, 8 generations compared to someone who's been here for maybe 8 minutes. And a lot of times those illegals are winning out when it comes to food assistance or apartments or jobs. So I appreciated both of you guys helping me have that perspective.
Can I just talk about Black jobs very quickly?
Sure.
So I think, of course, that term, it's kind of a buzz term that the Democrats were using to basically state that, majority of Republicans are racist or prejudiced, or they deal in bigotry, which I believe both parties, I mean, this is America. We understand that racism still exists. I don't care what nobody else is saying, but that doesn't mean that every American is racist. But with the term Black jobs, and the way I took it, initially, like, Black jobs, what's Black jobs? Black people are in every industry, in every sort of, career field. But then I had to think analytically, because of our, expertise, the lack thereof skills, education, or the lack of education, there are industries where blacks may, that black people may gravitate to or be more qualified in, or have the access more so than any other demographic. And if we look at that, there are concentrations of manufacturing, there's concentrations of distribution, localized jobs in the community, that those jobs, depending on where you live demographically, especially when it comes to Black Americans, we have those jobs. So yes, illegal immigration is affecting those jobs. Because take, for instance, a business owner. If you're a business owner and your state minimum wage is $12, and again, I don't want to get too deep here, but I'll just state this. If you hiring 3 people at $12 an hour, but you can essentially pay somebody half that amount and hire 6 people, then believe it or not, you are incentivizing and encouraging illegal immigration, which people have done, because who are hiring the illegal immigrants? Because a lot of times we can put a bad label on illegal immigrants because they are illegally in the country, which we should. But secondly, who are incentivizing them other than the government? So there are businesses who are incentivizing them as well. I believe all of those people should get their fair shake of the law.
Yeah. Well, they're even finding, there's almost 500,000 missing children under Biden and Harris.
The child trafficking ring. Yes.
Yeah. But now, they're finding some of them are working in factory jobs.
In America.
Yes. Poultry factories, meat processing plants. Like 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. That is despicable. Many of them, they don't speak English, but again, they're thinking, okay, I can give this person $5 an hour versus paying somebody 15 or 20 or 25. Okay, let me switch gears with you on this.
Sure.
The majority of Americans support President Trump's idea of mass deportation, and many say that they are okay with strategically using the military to help. What are your thoughts on him wanting to round up and remove illegal immigrants, starting with criminals?
Now, this is tough because it has to do with, and I don't know, because of his level, I don't know if he is making the distinction between federal troops or the National Guard, which are state ran. He can possibly, depending on the state, get with the governors and make some sort of contractual agreement that the federal government will pay the National Guard X amount of dollars to help him, secure the state by eradicating, criminals and people who are illegally in the country. I'll just say this, because again, to respect to your platform, military troops, military personnel in general, we are trained for war, right? We're trained for war. We're trained for, maybe guarding a base, but a peacekeeping mission. You have local police, you have county police, you have the sheriff's office, you have state police. I can see an influx of temporary police officers, maybe call people back from retirement, but to use the military on civilians, I've been giving that some thought. I really don't know, Steve, and I don't know if that's the right call or not, because again, these are civilians. Now, when it comes to the gangs and criminals, then all bets are off. He can definitely use the National Guard and troops when it comes to that, because when you look at a lot of these cartels and a lot of these gangs out of, mostly what I'm hearing a lot of out of Central America, that these guys have high-powered, weapons. They have assault rifles. They even have some sort of military-grade weaponry as well. So that's probably a good idea. But when it comes to the people who are non-criminals, when it comes to, the quote-unquote egregious crimes that people are committing, like killing people and, I won't say the other word on your channel, but the R word they're doing to citizens as well, then if they're not committing those particular crimes, then I think there's another way we can go about it. And that's essentially using law enforcement that we already have. But I know someone's going to say, well, that's going to put a strain on law enforcement because they already have their duties and responsibilities and then you're going to add extra duties that may take them out of their current role. So I don't know. That's a very difficult question, though. That's a very difficult question. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've interviewed several people that were at the level of colonel, and
Okay.
they also have mixed feelings. Some of them say,
Right.
well, of course he'll start with the National Guard, but we have hundreds of thousands of military men and women that are at bases that could be deployed right now. I've had others say the exact same thing. These people are trained killers.
Right.
That's what they know how to do. And so to try to turn that switch off when they're unleashed, I think what's going to be really interesting is, this idea of potentially going after the cartel as a terrorist organization. They're talking about using Navy SEALs and the Delta groups to hunt them down. I don't know what will end up coming of that.
I do agree with that, though. Believe it or not, to a certain degree, I do believe that cartels are terrorist organizations. Not that they want to fracture America or destabilize America, but they're doing it, through child trafficking, illegal drug trade, all other sorts of, black market items coming into America that is really affecting Americans. Like, we've seen the infusion of fentanyl inside of all these different states. I believe they even had an issue up in North Dakota where they had Venezuelan gang members up there running rings. Who lives in North Dakota? And if you do, don't take offense to that. I just don't know anyone that lives there. But these are some of the things that is deriving from these cartels. So it can be looked at as a terrorist group as well.
Yeah. No, I think almost everyone knows somebody, that 6 degrees of influence they call or whatever. I think almost everyone knows somebody who's been affected by fentanyl. So that's a big one. I don't know if you saw this because it just broke this morning, but District Attorney Alvin Bragg, the guy who went after Trump in New York, and has been very lenient on the illegal crimes in New York. His personal assistant was just physically assaulted and beaten by a Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang member who's been arrested 5 times and let go by Alvin Bragg. So this guy's been arrested 5 times, and then on the 6th time he gets out, and the victim he happens to pick on is the very guy who let him out 5 times, personal assistant. It's crazy.
I'm going to say it, Stephen. I'm going to say it. And hopefully your audience does not take offense to it. What if he was black? That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. What if he was black? So let people's imagination run wild and come to the conclusions that they come to. What if he was black?
Yeah.
I doubt it. I doubt it personally, and this is my opinion, that he would have been released once, let alone 5. And look at the egregious crimes that people are committing. They're literally catching and releasing criminals, but not deporting them or incarcerating them until they can deport them. Like, this is wild. And again, this is all coming under the Democrats. And for some strange reason, majority of Black Americans, we have been voting Democrats ever since Lyndon B. Johnson and Martin Luther King, who supported the Civil Rights Bill. And we've been voting that ever since the 60s, 63, 64. We've been voting Democrat, in which a lot of people don't understand is prior to that, most Black Americans were Republicans. We were voting for the Republican Party because Lincoln was actually a Republican, and of course with the Emancipation Proclamation. So again, I really think we need to wake the hell up and understand that whether you're going to vote for your best interests or not even play the game altogether. And some people might believe that's anti-American, but that's your right. You have the right to vote or the right not to vote, regardless of what our ancestors have done for us. So yeah, that's, again, we see stark differences when certain demographics come in contact with law enforcement versus other. And I got it. There's some implicit bias. There's some stereotypical things there, but I understand the construction of America, and I love America.
Yeah. Okay. I saw this morning. A new
Okay.
peer-reviewed medical study shows the highest COVID vaccinated county in America has seen a 1,200% increase in heart attacks. For years, the CDC, the FDA, Big Pharma have all said these miracle shots did not cause myocarditis, that they did not flood the human body's internal organs with self-replicating viruses. But now it appears that they do. A 1,200% increase in the county that got the most miracle shots. What are your thoughts on RFK Jr. teaming up with Trump to go after Big Pharma, to go after Big Food, the FDA? What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love the choice. First and foremost, RFK, he's been on this for quite some time now, basically stating that the COVID-19 vaccines are poison. And he's been right. And there is a lot of poison in our food. Because here's the thing, you're mandating people take a vaccine that was created in less than a year. Other vaccines took multiple trials and test groups, 5 to 7 years of testing before it was released. And granted, we went through a very grave period in time where people, were passing away because of COVID-19. So I can understand the expediency when it came to creating the vaccine. But even in those studies, they were showing that this may not be a good thing. And of course, when it comes to medicine in general in America, most things are not a cure. They're a cover-up. They just kind of mask the issue or they subdue the issue, but they never really fix the issue. Your body normally takes care of itself over time with a strengthened immune system. So when it comes to RFK, I was very excited because he was talking about taking poison out of food. When you look at our food, Stephen, there's ingredients that, the UK, Europe nations, African nations, Australian, all of these places do not have it in their food. When you look at some of the cows in America, they're like triple the size if you went to other countries. That's because they're feeding and shooting up all the, steroids, all sort of feed, all sorts of crazy things. So I definitely believe that RFK, with the current information we have now, was probably the best choice. Because again, if anything, I just hope that he takes out the poison of our food. And then we always have to look at the added extras. Like now we have to, like my wife and I, we have to buy organic. Everything has to be organic. And if you're looking at something, you're like, wait a minute, what is photo, monopoly, all these chemical names that we're not aware of? Yeah. So yeah, it's good. I believe it's a good pick.
I do too. One thing that I noticed about him when he was running for president is, he visited a lot of Black communities. He visited a lot of barbershops. And one of the things he would talk about with people is the Muskegee medical treatment. Where
the experiment.
Yes, literally for 40 years, they secretly injected Black men with syphilis.
Yep.
And allowed them to suffer, have brain issues, skin issues, all kinds of health issues. And then he says, no wonder the Black community is hesitant to trust the government or to trust Big Pharma. So he was, I learned about the Muskegee experiment from RFK Jr. So I'm super excited about it. I can't wait for him to get in and, shut down the revolving door of Big Pharma to government, government back to Big Pharma. And, these agencies that are supposed to be monitored, or these groups that are supposed to be monitored by these government agencies, they're literally funded by the very agencies.
Absolutely.
It's like the cigarette company lawyers saying, after doing all of our research, cigarettes do not cause cancer. That's exactly the equivalent of it. And so we need somebody like RFK Jr. To go in with the coverage, I believe, of Trump to allow him to go in and make these massive changes.
I can't agree with you more. A good book for people to read is called The Medical Apartheid. Now, it was a really good book, of all the experiments that occurred in America and how people were being tested on. But we all know that, tobacco contains carcinogens. There have been many lab reports and tests. So if it contains carcinogens, and carcinogens are the precursors to obtaining cancer, so they cause cancer. It is what it is. There's no way that you can get around that. But again, if you have enough money, you can change the narrative. And I believe that's why platforms like yourself and others who just want to get down to evidence, verifiable evidence and truth versus mass media propaganda and influence over the American people is just astonishing to me. Just because they have money and they can always flash these images and these little quick clips to influence Americans that one thing is good and the other thing is bad. That's sort of like the whole gimmick with milk. Okay, 72 to 73% of Black Americans are lactose intolerant, but they say milk is good for you, build strong bones. I'll just leave with this because I want to go down a rabbit hole with this. Milk is from a different, if it's not almond milk, oat milk, something like that, milk is from another mammal for the nurturing of a young calf. You are a human being and you're taking a young calf, a cow, right? You're not eating his meat that you're cooking up and killing all the, the parasites and bacteria, etc. But you're drinking something that's supposed to be nurturing for a cow. And I'm not telling people to give up milk. I just drink almond milk.
Okay, interesting. Ray, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a fun discussion.
Thank you for having me.
It'll be really interesting. Number one, Trump needs to get inaugurated and into office. And then, of course, they're going to do everything they can to block him, block his nominations. So it'll be really interesting to see what he could get done. 4 years from now, I'll be here covering it. You'll be here covering it. If people want to follow your channel, where is the best place for them to follow you online?
Right here on YouTube at Black Logic. I do have one question for you though, Stephen.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy?
Well, I'm excited about it. Of course, I'm a libertarian on paper, and so I'm very anti-government, anti-war, anti-taxes. It's really interesting because the two parties are really split, right? You have Democrats that say the government needs to give you more, and we have all these problems, therefore we need to raise taxes. And you have Republicans that say the government is inefficient. We actually need to lower taxes and we'll bring in more tax revenue. We want to do tax cuts
and create more opportunities.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the middle where I go, you're stealing my money. And so think about if they can cut $2 trillion a year of wasteful spending out, then they don't have to steal our money as much. They don't have to tax us as much. And in fact, Elon Musk put out a tweet over on X. He said, which government department of all of them would you like to see abolished or reformed most? And I guess I wasn't shocked, but I was a little bit shocked. It was the IRS. I mean, we worked so hard for our money. And in 1913, they create income tax and the Federal Reserve. And after that, the government gets a portion of all you make for the rest of your life. And I'm a big believer that a portion of all I earn is mine to keep. But the government has the same theory. A portion of all you earn is ours to misspend, right? So, but if we can clean up how much money is going to these stupid foreign wars, countries that hate our guts, the stupid wasteful spending here in the homeland.
What about all of those federally funded experiments like dogs taking illicit drugs, or people in other countries wearing a helmet while walking down the street? Did you hear about they did a Senate committee where they were looking at the federal budget and they were funding all of these different programs that was just totally outrageous. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, the government, they have receipts, was paying for drag queen shows in Ecuador.
In Ecuador.
Why are we paying for drag queen shows, number one, but now down in Ecuador, 2,500 miles away?
We can get free drag queen shows in America.
Yeah, you just go to New Orleans.
I just came back from New Orleans. I didn't see any drag queens, though.
Oh, well, you were in the wrong part of town. No, but I'm excited to see what they can do. I mean, why are we spending $5 million to see how dogs react on cocaine? They're not going to react well.
They're fat in their pockets.
Humans don't react well.
This plain and simple. They're fat in their pockets. Because again, I would be this. Show me the pictures of you funding. I don't want to see the pictures of the drag queens. I don't want to see that. But show me the pictures of all these experiments and programs that you doing, all these outrageous, obscene experiments or testing. You're spending 5 million, 10 million, 1 billion of the American taxpayer dollars. It's absolutely outrageous, and things need to change. And here's one fun thing, and I know you know this, that DOGE is a temporary department. I think after 2 years, they're going to dismantle DOGE. I don't know if they're going to have a building or it's going to be virtual, but after 2 years, supposedly they're going to, stop DOGE or expire the department, or so to speak. So that's very interesting as well. I've never heard of a government department lasting 2 years, like here for a short bit, make some great changes supposedly, and then go away. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they'll need their own building, because it was revealed this week that 85% of federal government employees are only in the office a couple of times a month. So at any given point, there's only 17% of the workforce at a building, at a desk, doing something. So they can pick any building they want to set up shop. But no, I'm excited to see what they do, what else they discover and reveal to the American people. So
do you believe that, are you for or against Americans working from home? Because Elon Musk is against it. Elon Musk is against it.
I don't personally have a problem with it.
Okay,
but
me either.
I believe the majority of people, I don't know that they have the discipline to actually do it, because it's a lot of work. I've done it for over 10 years.
Wow.
And being self-employed, I don't know. It is a little bit risky, I think, but I do think that there can be some advantages. I mean, a lot of people waste a lot of time sitting in traffic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I
know the military won't be working from home, at least not in the next 10 years or so, unless robots take over. But hey.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to use the U.S. military on the border, but we're going to let them work from home. Oh, okay. Nothing's going to get done.
Nothing's going to get done.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I'm going to put a direct link to your YouTube down below. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, Stephen. Thanks for having me.